When life stops going your way, the default human reaction is to grip the steering wheel tighter. We try to force outcomes, micromanage the circumstances around us, and control the behavior of others to make reality fit expectations. It is an exhausting way to live. And because you can't actually control the universe, that illusion eventually shatters. When it does, it throws you into a state of deep despondency and anxiety. You are fighting a war against reality that you are mathematically guaranteed to lose, and it destabilizes your entire mind. Now, look at how water behaves. Pour it into a cup, and it immediately becomes the cup. It doesn't fight the walls of the container. It adapts perfectly to whatever shape it finds itself in, yet it never loses its substance or power. You can train your mind to do exactly the same thing. By running your psychology through a 5-step mental filtration system, you can transition from brittle, exhausting resistance to fluid adaptation and resolve your emotional instability. Step 1 starts with how you handle incoming threats. Step 1 is building an early warning radar system for your brain. Most people think feelings just float around and infect them randomly, but emotions are always the byproduct of a specific thought process. To stop the emotional reaction, you have to detect the thought first. The ancient practice for this is called nepsis, or watchfulness. It is the active habit of monitoring what enters your mind and enforcing a 3-second pause before you engage with any sudden thought of fear or despair. Look at this diagram. If you treat the center node as your mind, you can see a toxic thought approaching from the outside. The danger isn't the thought itself. The danger is letting that thought cross into your inner perimeter before you recognize what it is. It is like dodging a projectile. If you don't notice it until it makes impact, it wreaks havoc and creates a catastrophe out of a minor event. But as you practice watchfulness, that thought gets caught early on, far away from your core identity. Once you can see the thoughts coming, step 2 is adapting to the situation instead of resisting it. This means looking directly at your current circumstances and accepting the variables you absolutely cannot change. A major roadblock here is perfectionism. If you carry a quiet assumption that you must execute everything flawlessly to be worthy, you are setting a psychological trap. Because you cannot be flawless, you mathematically guarantee that you will constantly feel like a failure, leading straight to despair. Water doesn't demand that a jagged rock be perfectly smooth before it flows over it. You have to conform to the exact container you are in today. Accept the flaws in the environment, the sudden setbacks, and the difficult people. The moment you abandon the demand for a perfect reality, the anxiety built up around trying to force that perfection simply dissolves. Step 3 deals with your ego. The loudest internal psychological noise usually happens when we tie our core identity to external situations we don't control. Negative thought loops love to target a person's pride. They whisper that you are smarter than everyone else in the room, artificially inflating your sense of superiority. When your ego is inflated like that, every minor inconvenience or disagreement feels like a deep personal insult. To stay calm under heavy pressure, you must consciously drop the ego. You have to abandon the exhausting need to always be right and stop looking down on the people around you. But what happens when a destructive thought loop slips past your radar and takes root in your mind? That brings us to step 4. Step 4 is the act of revealing. When a toxic thought is stuck in your head, you have to physically extract it. You do this by writing it down on paper or speaking it aloud to a trusted guide or mentor. Revealing serves a strict functional purpose. It pulls the abstract, spiraling anxiety out of the dark corners of your mind and puts it in front of you. Once it is out in the open, it can be objectively analyzed and corrected into a realistic, positive perspective. Think of a stream hitting a massive boulder. The water doesn't stop moving, and it doesn't complain about the obstacle. It simply analyzes the shape of the rock and redirects its flow to find an alternative path forward. Mentally strong individuals do not freeze when they hit a psychological obstacle. By revealing their dark thoughts and redirecting their focus, they maintain continuous forward momentum. That brings us to step 5, which sets the timeline for all of this. Many people fall into the identity trap here. They have entertained fear and self-justification for so long, they think, well, that's just who I am. It isn't. Those thoughts are a complete distortion of who you are, exaggerating your flaws until you lack all emotional equilibrium. To fix that distortion, look at this droplet striking a solid stone surface. Water does not carve a canyon through violent, sudden force. It breaks through rock via relentless, microscopic repetition. Mental strength is a byproduct of patience, the willingness to consistently cut off bad thoughts, drop by drop, for as long as it takes. You now have the complete system. Watch for incoming threats, release your perfectionism, drop your ego, reveal your hidden thoughts, and remain consistent. As you apply these steps, the internal turbulence begins to subside. You may notice your heart becomes more settled, and the frantic pace of life slows, simply because you are no longer fueling every negative impulse. This emotional equilibrium remains steady regardless of your external circumstances or how chaotic your environment becomes. Peace is not achieved by forcing the world to bend to your will. Instead, it comes from accepting the shape of your circumstances, choosing to remain calm, flexible, and entirely fluid.